Well, for more on the crisis in Venezuela, I'm joined live from Baltimore by Steve Hanke, Professor of Applied Economics at the Johns Hopkins University and one of the world's leading experts in measuring and stopping hyperinflation. He also served as advisor to Venezuela's president, Rafael Caldera. Welcome back to the show.
Good to be with you.
So when you start talking about 10 million% inflation next year, according to the IMF, it's hard to imagine what that looks like on the ground. So give us some idea about the domino effect on the economy and the people of Venezuela, if that prediction is accurate.
Well, the first point is that the IMF is irresponsible for making predictions about hyperinflation. This is completely impossible. No one's ever done it. The IMF is clearly making a political, not an economic or analytical statement. I measure the hyperinflation rate every day. That's all you can do, and you can do it very accurately. It's now running about 50,000% per year, the hyperinflation rate. That's about 88% per month inflation. So it's bad, but it's nothing like the predictions the IMF is making.
So how would you say businesses and consumers are dealing with this inflation, especially when the cost of goods essentially varies dramatically from week to week?
Well, for one thing, they deal with it very poorly, but they learn how to deal with it. And what you do, if you receive bolivars, you get rid of them as fast as you possibly can. And there are only two ways to do that. You can buy commodities if you can find them. And in the setup piece that you had, it was very accurate. There's shortages all over the place, so it's very difficult to find things to buy. So the second alternative, you go to the black market and exchange your bolivars for dollars.
And so when we see this increasing pace, a lot of people are wondering, why is it still continuing to rise at such a fast pace?
The government runs a huge deficit. They spend way more money than the revenues that they take in. So they go to the central bank and they require the central bank to extend credit to the government to fill that budget deficit gap. And that extension of credit increases the money supply, and the increased money supply that no one wants creates inflation.
So then what steps should the Maduro government take to try and slow down this inflation, or at least try and get to a point where they can make some sort of dent?
There are only really two proven ways to do this. One is to officially dollarize the economy. As your setup piece indicated, the economy is spontaneously dollarizing anyway. The unit of account in Venezuela is the US dollar. But if you formally dollarized, you would end up doing what, for example, was done in Montenegro. We did that in 1999. The inflation had been in Serbia, Montenegro, the rump Yugoslavia at the time, 313% a month. So that they just got rid of the Yugoslav dinar in Montenegro and replaced it with the Deutschmark, and the inflation stopped. The same thing happened in 2008 in Zimbabwe. They had the second highest hyperinflation in world history, and they dollarized. They got rid of the Zimbabwe dollar, and the inflation stopped immediately. The second way is to make your currency as sound as a foreign anchor currency. Let's say clone the foreign anchor currency.
Right.
We did that in Bulgaria in 1997. The Bulgarian lev, we tied it with a currency board arrangement to the Deutschmark. It traded at a fixed exchange rate with the Deutschmark. It was backed 100% with Deutschmark reserves, and the inflation rate had been 242% per month, and it stopped immediately as soon as we put in the currency board and made the local currency, the lev, a clone.
Now Steve, we know that Maduro has tried to introduce the idea of a cryptocurrency or a digital currency. Is that a worse option than going with the dollar?
Well, yes, it doesn't exist. They've announced this now 3 different times, and the petro is the currency that you're referring to. It's supposedly a cryptocurrency, but it doesn't trade. So it has no credibility. It's really a scam. So it is not going to fix anything.
All right, thank you so much for your insights. Steve Hanke there, Professor of Applied Economics at Johns Hopkins University.